Hello, friends, and welcome again. Welcome. It's nice to be connecting with you again. Today is International Women's Day, and I wanted to connect with you on a topic that is, in a way, seemingly very vaguely related to International Women's Day. Although, as you will see, we are going to find a very nice connection. This is a connection that I would like to illustrate. International Women's Day is a celebration. It's a feast when we remember those women, those mothers, those grandmothers, sisters, everyone who is around us, who is life-giving, who is helpful, who is around us to celebrate, who gives happiness to our lives. So it's not uncommon that we would give a flower as a gift, as a present, to symbolize our love, our gratitude, our gratefulness to those women who are around us and who have enabled us to have a happy, healthy life and who have accompanied us, supported us, maybe even at times when we were ill or desperate or we needed a shoulder to cry on or to lean on or a helping hand. So, having said this, this is a wonderful celebration and opportunity to remember hope, to remember hopefulness and living for others, and dignity. Dignity that we can enable others to have in their own struggles, to accompany them in their own journey, in their struggles. As a psychotherapist and as a logotherapist, I wanted to relate this topic of helping others live with dignity to a topic that we just received, a message that we received yesterday about supporting palliative care and the use of logotherapy in palliative care. Incidentally, this is going to be the topic of the upcoming conference in Vienna as well. So I wanted to relate the two topics and to underline the ways in which I see a connection through our attitudes, through the attitudes of not only supporting individuals but supportive professionals in helping others deal with tragedies, deal with sickness, deal with injuries, deal with despair, and deal with a sense of hopelessness or frustration in their lives. The connecting theme and the connecting thread I see is through our attitudes. Did you know that there is an orientation in psychotherapy that parallels medicine and the Hippocratic Oath with its basic assertion, do no harm, support life in its all ways and forms and shapes, and support the dignity and uniqueness of each and every individual? This therapy is logotherapy. It is Viktor Frankl's logotherapy that was founded by Dr. Viktor Frankl many, many years ago, started in its roots even in Viktor Frankl's life when he was growing up in Vienna, in his school, when he courageously said to his teacher, life is more than just an oxidation process. It is not true that we just live to at the end die without having left any traces. Life must have some sense to it. It must have meaning. And Viktor Frankl went on to dedicate his medical career and the rest of his life to helping others find meaning in their lives. Viktor Frankl was a psychiatrist, a neuropsychiatrist who worked in Vienna. He was, of course, incarcerated during the Second World War because he was a Jewish person. So, along with his family, he lost most of his family. Coming out of the concentration camps, Viktor Frankl reached the death um, in his own soul when he realized so many of his family members passed away and they were killed in the concentration camps. From the depth of his sorrow, from the depth of his experiences, Viktor Frankl witnessed logotherapy, that meaning in life matters. Meaning in life which is given to each and every one of us in any situation, regardless of our circumstances, is available to us. Now, how to use logotherapy in our everyday practice as a supportive discipline, a discipline that would complement cognitive behavior therapy, existential analysis. It would complement um, dialectical behavioral therapy. It would complement many other forms of therapy as well as medicine. Um, that is my aim to illustrate today. So Viktor Frankl's logotherapy does this through a three-dimensional view of the human person. And being today International Women's Day, I thought of continuing my thought with illustrating logotherapy's basic concepts that can be used in this area through metaphors. Not even metaphors, but symbols and pictures. First of all, stories from my life that have to do with flowers. Being Women's Day, International Women's Day, I thought that would be an appropriate way of continuing. So the first story has to do with when I was very little. When I was very little, about 1.5 years old, one day my family went up to the forest, went to a forest, to have some rest on the weekend. And I remember that I saw my mother, my little sister, my father resting on the lawn as I wandered into the thick of the forest and I was looking for some flowers. I remember the grass was even taller than I was at that time, and I reached down and all of a sudden saw these little yellow dandelions growing. I quickly picked a handful and probably with very unshaky legs I was wobbling and going through back to my mother and holding up this bouquet of flowers. And my mother said, "Oh," to my surprise she said, "Oh, why did you pick the flowers? Don't you know that they want to live? And now that you pick them, they will not live anymore. They will die." I was very disappointed. At that time I didn't understand that at that time, very early on in my life, my mother was teaching me that life is precious. In every way or form of it, we should aim for preserving life as much as we can. This is the first story. This of course ties in very much with logotherapy. Viktor Frankl dedicated his entire career to saving lives, no matter what the circumstances were. Now comes the second story. Second story brings us to my adolescent years. I was already 14 years old, and one time we went up to the mountains. It again will have to do with flowers. This story also has flowers in it. So we went up to the mountains, and I asked my parents, would I be excused for a while? Can I go off on my own and take a little trip while we are on the hike? My parents said, certainly, you're old enough, you can do it. So I went, and I came to a place, an abandoned place. It was a place where there was no one else. There was a little roof there and a little statue. Under that roof, there was an icon embedded with a mother holding a baby. I thought to myself, it was a very old picture. It was an icon. I realized it must have been the Virgin Mary with the little Jesus. I wanted to be nice to the Virgin Mary and the little Jesus. And I thought, oh, how wonderful. I felt an awe and wonder about seeing that picture. I thought, what can I do? There is not much I can do at this stage in my life. There is not much I can offer. I looked around in the meadow. It was full of flowers. So I decided to pick some flowers. I picked again a handful. And upon my return to the little icon, I saw a pot there. It was filled with old flowers. The old flowers were all dry. They were withered. With a sudden impulsive move of my hand, I grabbed the old flowers, I scattered them around in the meadow, and I very proudly placed my fresh new flowers in the pot with some fresh water, which I got from a nearby well. It looked wonderful. It looked beautiful. I stepped back, I admired my flowers. And then all of a sudden, a hint came to me. And this hint said, what have you done to the old flowers? Someone placed them there with love, and you scattered them. You did not take good care of them. I do not think that that would please the Virgin Mary. And as I knew a lot about the Virgin Mary, I went very quickly, and I felt very strongly that in my heart that somehow this is not how she would have liked it, because even though the flowers were old, she appreciated those flowers. She appreciated the gesture. She appreciated that someone placed those flowers there with care. So I collected the old flowers. I placed them gently back next to my new flowers. And that made me much happier. All of a sudden, I felt that this was the right thing to do. And this experience still fills me with a sense of wonder about, oh yes, how this is that our life, our bodies goes through changes. We go through transitions. We know this from developmental psychology. There's a time when we are born, when we are young, when we are just fresh starting out in life. We are given so much sense of direction through our parents, through our counselors, through our teachers, through the people who are around us. They tell us, you need to do this, need to do that. And then comes a time in our lives when we are on our own, when we become responsible adults, and we need to decide for ourselves how do we want to live our lives, according to which values, which way do we want to go. And you see, no matter at what age, these questions can surface and resurface in any situation. And as our life goes through changes and transitions, of course, we become older. We become like flowers, like flowers. I have a pot of flowers here in front of me, and being International Women's Day, I just wanted to illustrate, you see, now, this pot of flowers is brand new. It's fresh. The little flowers are just looking up. They are very hopeful looking. They look beautiful, wonderful, nice. But there will come a time when these flowers become old. They wither, and they may die. What will I do with my flowers then? Well, here behind me, you see a poinsettia flower. It is perhaps unusual to see poinsettias in bloom in the middle of March or the beginning of March, where we are now. These flowers are actually for Christmas, and we usually put them in a special place under the Christmas tree. They usually appear in the stores around Christmas time. We buy them, we decorate our house with them, then they are usually good for a couple of weeks. Then they become old, the earth, the soil dries out, the flowers wither, they are no longer as nice as when we bought them. So what we tend to do with them is most likely just toss them out, toss them away, and that's the end of that flower. Well, last year I decided that I was going to save my poinsettias. And these poinsettias, they they started to bloom actually in January, February, thanks to it that I saved them. So what I wanted to illustrate with this, you see, Viktor Frankl's logotherapy is the only orientation that gives us a profound view of the human person, which is the root of our unlimited dignity, no matter what our circumstances, no matter what our age, and no matter what our illness may be. This is a three-dimensional view of the human person with body, mind, and spirit. Our body and mind may be subject to an illness. It may be afflicted by even a terminal illness. It is only in the dimension of our spirit that we are free, that we are free to rise above our circumstances, that we are free to take a stand toward our circumstances. This reminds me of Jerry Long, who was a dear friend of many of us. Jerry Long was a clinical psychologist, and I saw him talk on an occasion in Dallas at the International Conference on Logotherapy that was at that time organized in Dallas. I believe it was around 1999, it may have been. And Jerry Long was in a wheelchair. I didn't know this about Jerry Long before I met him because I have not seen Jerry Long before. I heard about him. Jerry Long was in a wheelchair as a consequence of an accident when he was young. When he was 18 years old, he had a diving accident. As a result of that, he became quadriplegic. He was in a wheelchair, and he talked to us about hope, and he talked to us about dignity, and he talked to us about not giving up. And he said that suffering leads to despair if it's not met with meaning. If we couple suffering with meaning, if we manage to find the sense of meaning in our circumstances, then our suffering will cease to be a suffering as we have known it before. It will not lead to despair. It will lead to a meaningful experience and achievement in itself. You see, flowers have a purpose of being, a purpose on their own. They are created to make us happy, to remind us of hope, to remind us of hopefulness. Human beings have more than a purpose. We not only have a task, we have a mission. Each one of us are called by life. We are called by our name, we are called by our name to be there for a task. Many times this task is easier to see. In some circumstances, though, it's very hard to infer what that task to be that is uniquely ours. Perhaps nowhere more one is confronted with this question of meaning than when one is terminally ill, or one suffers in a hospital without too much hope for recovery. That's when one is brought to one's very essence, to one's very being, and one is asked the question, which way are you going to choose? The choice is ultimately ours. Do we choose to live with dignity and accomplish this most highest human form of achievement possible for mankind, and we participate? Or we choose the alternate way that is going to lead to more depression, suffering, and despair, and it can lead to suicide. If we honor life from the very beginning to its end, if we honor life from its very conception to its very end, we recognize that we are called by life, we are wanted by life, each one of us individually. And it is only us in that particular situation who can give the answer yes, who can empty ourselves for the sake of others to show an attitude, an achievement that is the highest form of achievement humanly possible, and that is to overcome our suffering and transcend ourselves, to rise above through our spirit, rise above our suffering, our pain, and to accomplish meaning in the sense that in the stand that we take toward our suffering, in our attitudes. Attitude and our values is very central to Viktor Frankl's logotherapy. There are things that sometimes we can do, those are called creative values, the work we can do, the actions we can take, and there is another avenue of finding meaning, which is through emotions, which is through experiencing, the experience of connection, of relationships, of friendships that we still can have. The highest form of achievement in life is through attitude and values, said Viktor Frankl. This is what was there in the concentration camps, this is what was there, this is what was available. The only source that we had through our spirit to take a stand. And this is what Viktor Frankl's logotherapy aids us in doing, and promotes doing, and inspires us in doing, and helps those of us who are familiar with it to take it into our workplaces and to apply and to inspire others to walk in hope and to aspire to this highest form of accomplishments, of finding meaning in suffering by coupling that suffering with a meaning, highest form of accomplishment we can reach toward choosing a courageous attitude toward our suffering. Thank you very much for being with me on this wonderful day, on this beautiful day, and for celebrating with me International Women's Day. With this, I wish you a happy holiday and wonderful March break for those of you who are on a break right now, and we'll connect later and continue our topics on logotherapy. Thank you for watching. Bye.